Hey everybody, it's Chuck. Well, I'm back from a nice long work week in Calgary, so I'm back in Jacksonville, and had a great time up there. Got to meet some new Tesla friends. I'm wearing my hat that at Costco Avocado bought for me. Thank you for the generous gift. I wore it everywhere, and it was the center of attention everywhere I went. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I'm wearing it on my first FSD video. Here we are on FSD Beta 11.4.4. I know many of you have it, so maybe this isn't new information like normally I'm putting out as soon as I get it, but I'm gonna do by popular demand, because I did a couple polls on Twitter to see what drive most people wanted to see. And without a doubt, both on my subscriber poll and public poll, narrow unmarked roads was what most people wanted to see. There have been reports that the behavior has changed and not necessarily solved. So a little bit of timing improvement for perhaps when it pulls over. So hopefully on this drive, we'll get some good data and we'll talk about what we see on narrow unmarked roads. And how this video has started in the past. I'm here at a intersection that can vary between a protected or unprotected left turn. Right now it's a left arrow that is red. I don't know if we got here in time to get a protected arrow. We'll see what happens here. Nope, looks like we got traffic going ahead. Now I'm to the flashing yellow, and it's going out into the intersection with cars coming. So it's definitely creeping with obvious scenario of many cars being mapped. With a good boost, it should go right now. Nice job, Tesla. A little bit fast over the railroad tracks usually. Yeah, it was accelerating as it went over the railroad track. So I'm going to continue to mark those. And as we begin our unmarked road scenario, I have heard that the road centering is still there. And I think I noticed it just then. It did get over to the right. There is a kind of a creep here it needs to use because I cannot see, and it aggressively went. And it looks like we're going to get our first interaction on this street here. And then the speed bump. Hey, it slowed down for that speed bump. It only got down to 20, and here's our first interaction with the car. What's it doing? It stayed to the right. It did not turn the steering wheel aggressively to the left, and here's our second opportunity here. It needs to stay to the right, and don't move your steering wheel. It's still, did you see that? Okay, it's better. That's what I got two interactions on the very first leg. It's better. It stayed to the right. It started moving its wheel to the left, but it did not have any forward momentum. So it wasn't actually, the car wasn't going to the left. So previously it actually started moving towards the car before the car passed. Now I'm definitely seeing it's getting to the right, but it still wants to turn that steering wheel. There's another speed bump. Here's a stop sign with no centerline road, and I'm usually in the middle here. And then see how it, okay, that was still kind of awkward. That was the scenario where it needs to stay to the right when it goes to these intersections, because as cars come towards you, now here we are in this wider intersection. We've got plenty of room here. Hey, you know what? It's so far, it's better. It's not, I didn't disengage any of those. So it looks like we're gonna finish this first leg of this drive in a good place. Now, I've changed the route just a little bit to where we should go out and do an unprotected left into this suicide lane. This is not about narrow unmarked roads, but I have had some really bad behavior in this suicide lane where it kind of goes towards the median. So it's got it wide open here. It should just go. Let's see what it does. See, okay, see what it's doing? It's in this middle lane and it jumped back over. Now, I didn't disengage there, but I'm going to. Inappropriate use of suicide lane, because that behavior needs to be documented. Now I'm going to change my trip here a little bit and get this going back. So I wanted that on film. I want the Tesla team to see it. I didn't feel the navigation taking that turn, so I went ahead and disengaged because I don't know if it was mapping it. I needed to be in this turn lane. Now he is in a turn lane but doesn't have a blinker on. The Tesla decided once his trajectory was mapped, we did an unprotected forward-facing left turn onto this other unmarked narrow road. So there was a whole lot there in that first couple minutes of video. I think the narrow roads behavior so far showed a different little bit of a behavior. The steering wheel is turning still a little bit, but it's turning while the car is stopped, which is a little scary, but it did not actually move towards the car. The center lane biasing, when there is no center line, you see here we have a center line, it's biased perfectly. But on those unmarked roads without a center line, I don't know if you can hear the tires going over the reflectors. That's how close it's biasing towards this yellow line to get away from that right edge. And then that unprotected center line road without a median, it's using that suicide lane as a lane, then it's going towards that median. It sees the median, and then it's kind of realizing it needs to go out and around. So I'm probably going to make a highlight clip of that for the Tesla team to see. That was on previous version 11.4s, and it's here on 11.4.4 also. So that behavior needs to be mapped a little bit better. Oncoming car on the other side of the lane did not pause at all. So that's exactly what we want. This lane has been fixed since 11.3, I believe. And once they addressed it, yeah, a very large truck on the other side of the line, didn't slow down at all. I have a zero bias set, so it's going the speed limit. I think with a center line, it's doing pretty good for me here. Now, granted, this is not working perfectly for everyone. If there are those of you that are watching this video and you're still having horrible situations with unmarked roads, listen, we just got to keep documenting it and getting more data into the training set. For me, I'm focusing a little bit more on the function of using the behavior of getting to the right and then going around the car. That's what I want Tesla to focus on. I don't like the center lane, center of the road bias. Some people have said they love it because that's what they do. Another oncoming car, but I do have a left I'm taking here, so it's, I'm sorry, I need to edit my route. I'm gonna go ahead and manually take over and edit the route here. Some people are saying that, you know, driving in the, I'm just gonna stop here and change the route while I'm talking. Driving in the center of the road is the correct thing to do. Now that is a question you could ask yourself based on where you live. And if you do drive in the center of the road, the important thing to recognize is the behavior of getting back over to the right once you see an oncoming car. And it's not letting me engage here. I guess it just hasn't caged itself. I'm trying to get it engaged here at this sign because there is a nice obstruction here, and the creep limit has worked fairly well here, and it does it just fine. No oncoming cars to deal with though. So back to the bias. There are several scenarios where being in the middle of the road is very problematic. Mike has got one in a situation with a blind curve. You can't be in the middle of an unmarked road coming around a blind curve, because if somebody's speeding and you're in the middle of the road, that's not where you want to be. The same situation has happened for me on this very road when I'm approaching a stop sign in the middle of the road, and then a car comes and has no room to go around me because I'm not properly located. So that's what it's all about. I'm in the middle of the road right now, and I can show you with the cameras in the rear how the bias is working. It's very much in the center, a little bit biased to the right. Now here we got an oncoming car. I should be going across the stop sign first. Let's see when it decides to get over. And it's getting over. I wish that trajectory was more solid. And it did okay there, again. But if you watch that trajectory on what it's thinking about, it is not confident on what it wants to do. That line is making all sorts of little, you know, snake maneuvers there. I wish it would just get over, stop, and give me a straight line and then around the back of the car, just like it does when it's changing lanes. It seems to be able to do that. But to the Tesla team that has been tweaking this, and the third bullet note, I think, on these release notes addresses this behavior, I think there's definitely a change for the better. I haven't disengaged on any of them yet. It didn't scare me enough. If you notice, the steering wheel does turn a little bit towards the car, but the speed is so low, I don't feel the car moving towards that oncoming car. Okay, so that's two legs. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick turnaround, and we'll do a couple more. Okay, as we go this direction, there is a scenario, and I've been talking with a few people, including Bradford Ferguson, about stop signs. And if you watch Dan O'Dowd and Ross Gerber drive this week, there was one stop sign of note. Watch the stop sign. See how it's obscured up there? Now I need to get over to the right and focus on this car. This was a good trajectory. It's not jumping. It's even wanting to go further right. That is good behavior. Now look, I can see the sign, but it's not mapped yet. It's not mapped yet. Now it's mapped and now it's going to stop. I had the benefit of not going 30 miles an hour in that scenario because I was stopped for those two cars. But there's something going on that when vision doesn't see a stop sign or the map data is not telling it there's a stop sign there. Interesting, I'm waiting on this car over to the right in a long wait there. That was, I could have totally made it, but that told me he saw that car very early on. So that stop sign being obscured scenario is an interesting one to think about, to see how they're biasing. Now here I am in the middle of the road. Now I need to be getting over. And it is good. Let's see what it does. See, my steering wheel is pointed right towards them, but it's not moving. Perfectly fine. I'm okay. Now, I will tell you, there was nobody behind me. If there was somebody behind me and I did that move on this road, they would be very confused because that's not the way humans drive. I know that isn't always a great argument on how the Tesla should drive it, because for some reason the team feels they need to stop. Maybe it's the bias required on the edge of an unmarked road without a line. I'm not sure. But so far on this drive, we've had good encounters with no traffic behind me. I probably would have felt the urge to push the accelerator on that one if there had been a car behind me, because I felt very comfortable with the amount of room that I had. Okay, here is a good one with it. Should just give me a creep. And it's wide open, and then the road widens up here to where even if a car was coming, it has plenty of room and doesn't have an issue. Okay, I'm gonna do one more leg, and then I'm gonna do that unprotected left turn scenario again, just so we can get that on film a little bit more. Be right back. Okay, I tried to get this one going a little bit sooner because I had a couple cars coming, but I don't think I got it in time. It's just going to be a stop, some traffic oncoming here, and then we'll be proceeding on the other side. Wide open, no problem. Let's see if it sees this first speed bump. We do have an oncoming car. It needs to be getting over to the right, and it is. And look, it's going to stop right at the speed bump, and then it's going back around behind. That time it didn't go all the way to 0. So it did a constant creep on that one, but I'm right back over in the middle of the road again. Good visibility of a truck in front of me. I have an oncoming car on the other side about a block away. Now 2 cars. So it should stop and roll, and I'll probably encounter both of these cars on the other side of this stop sign if it goes. If it doesn't go, it might do this. Okay, it is going. Now don't stop in the road. Okay, so that is the problem. Its logic just stopped in the road. So now I'm pressing the accelerator. Inappropriate stop in an intersection on an unmarked road. So now I got a UPS truck. I really want to have an encounter here. Okay, there's a car behind me, and look what it's doing. Okay, now it's got to get over. It's got to get over. Made room. Do you see how it made a lot of room? Very cautious. Now I'm stopping. Now there's a car behind me, so I'm pressing the accelerator here. I'm going to press it and let it drive it. So while I pressed it, you saw it did it just fine, and it's stopping again for that car. So this was a very dynamic one. I had to push it through because of the car stopping behind me, but while I had it overridden with an intervention, you could see the trajectory was just fine. So the car is still uncomfortable, but it seems to know how to do it adequately. I don't know how to tell the team to fix that. That's up to them to figure out how to fix it, but stopping is not a human-like behavior and will create road rage scenarios that we have to manage. You know, do you want us to just continue to intervene so you get the data points, or do you actually think that's how you're going to have the car drive in the long term? We have no way of knowing, so we're just going to put the data out here. Okay, so here's got a little bit more traffic. I got a lead car in front of me going into this unprotected left turn with a suicide lane that has been giving me problems by jumping into the suicide lane. I'm not going to do anything unsafe. If there's a car coming out, it's wide open to the left. It should just go. It should just go. 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 Now I'm pressing the accelerator to go. And that time it jumped in, and look what it did. It did the exact same thing, and it jumped back over to the right. Inappropriate use of suicide lane. So twice in a row, it had it right at first, but somehow it felt like it needed to go back into that lane, like it was the drivable space where it needed to be. Redoing the route. So this has got a whole lot of data in it, whether you realize it or not, for this drive. That suicide lane was just a total extra for the team, not really an unmarked road scenario, but it's very consistent there. Should be jumping over to the left lane. Hopefully it'll do it this time on its own. I'm not gonna disconnect like I did last time because I had plenty of time. Got a couple oncoming cars. They're marked blue, so it's gonna stop. It's got a tight gap here. If it goes for it, it should go with a good boost. But if you're gonna go, you have to go. All right, I had to accelerate because there wasn't the boost required for the gap there. Unsafe, unprotected left turn with oncoming traffic. You're not gonna be able to see that on video, probably. Maybe you can if you look at the data close enough, but those cars were coming too fast for the acceleration that I was using in the middle of the intersection. You know, if you gave a zero buffer trajectory, would it have crossed? I don't know, because I didn't feel the end of the boost it was going to give me, and I was uncomfortable with the boost it was using. So that's why I did that intervention. It's usually pretty good at those. I don't have to disengage like that on unprotected lefts very often. That one is a little bit different, that I don't drive a lot. It had an oncoming hill coming across from an overpass over a bridge. The car, I think, was blue. I'll have to look at that in post-production, but it didn't use the boost for the gap that it had. And on this center line road, no issues here. So I'm gonna call this one fixed for me. I don't know if anyone else with a center line is still having issues. I do have a local car behind me. And this is the scenario we can talk about with override buffers. You know, here I am going 30 in a 30, which is completely legal. But it does create scenarios with local drivers that can be a little bit less patient, perhaps. I'm going to go ahead and edit my trip so that the route continues. He is on my tail. School zone that is not in session right now, but these signs are going to be an interesting thing for the future. And I'm going to leave that there until I turn here, because I am going the speed limit and going to be turning, and I'll probably slow down early for this turn, and he's not going to like that either. He gave me a little bit of room there. Maybe he realized I had cameras on my car and decided to honor the buffer. All right. And because of him, I'm pressing the accelerator there because it was unnecessarily waiting in the road. And I don't want to create a road rage scenario here in Jacksonville. So I tapped that accelerator to push it through that intersection with no oncoming traffic in the way. All right, see how this little yellow line in front of me got the car over? Now, granted, that's a marking issue, right? Meaning like the city painted a little yellow line that helped the car there, but it does show that the car honors that little yellow line instead of stopping in the middle of the road at a stop sign. So the markings definitely make a difference when they are available. It's when they're not available, the car is tending to be in the center of the road pretty significantly. So we're going to do a right-hand turn here to finish this drive. So there is no more unprotected road, unmarked roads section here, but the railroad intersection is what I wanted to get on this one. I do have a car behind me again here. You saw at that intersection, so I'm not going to be able to let it play for very long about where it chooses to stop for this railroad track. It's a red light, so it should cross the track slowly and stop and honor a no right on red. And it is. Now, okay, you've got to stop and then proceed. Ran a red light with a right on red scenario. So somehow at that intersection, the railroad track combination with the light is creating a situation where it doesn't think it has to stop and honor a stop before proceeding. I do believe that that's what that is. I mean, we don't even roll stop signs anymore, so we're sure as heck not going to roll a red light. We have to double check that it is honored there. Now, granted, I do believe it was clearing to the left to ensure that it could do the right on red. I don't think that was the issue. It was about honoring the stop that's required by law. Well, this has been an amazingly packed drive with a whole lot of information on it. I'm not even sure if Unmarked Narrow Roads is the appropriate video title for this video, because I've got the two interactions in the suicide lane and the one red light scenario in addition to that with the railroad tracks to combine. So we'll see what we end up calling it, but I want to thank everybody that voted for which video I should make today. Tesla, I think you got some significant improvements on unmarked roads, but I don't think we're there yet. I do think the bias to the middle of the unmarked roads is a problem for scenarios where your occupancy network cannot see what is coming in front of it, whether it be Mike's blind turn, whether it be a crested hill that you don't know if cars are coming on the other side, or whether or not be at a stop where all of a sudden another car is getting in your intersection. Being in the middle of the road in those scenarios is unsafe in my mind, because the car doesn't react fast enough at the current time to get into a safe scenario, and you're depending on the defensive driving of others in order to proceed safely. All right, here is the last bonus round. It should be an unprotected left. If it gives me a boost right now, it's going to be just fine. And that was about the same boost as it used on that last unprotected left, but we had a smaller gap on the previous one. So there it is. A little bit late for 11.4.4 because of my travels this week and the timing of the drop, but hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day, everybody.